Ancient Egypt, a captivating and fabulous civilization, has left a profound legacy. Beyond the widely known accomplishments, countless intriguing aspects remain yet to be unraveled. From cultural exchanges with other civilizations to participating in historical events, like providing refuge to baby Jesus during Herod's reign, ancient Egypt's mysteries continue to mesmerize. Join us on this journey as we delve into 10 fascinating secrets you may not know about this enigmatic land. 1. Cleopatra was not Egyptian. Cleopatra, though famously associated with ancient Egypt like King Tut, was not of Egyptian descent. She hailed from a line of Greek Macedonians, tracing her ancestry back to Ptolemy I, a trusted lieutenant of Alexander the Great. The Ptolemaic dynasty, which reigned over Egypt from 323 to 30 BC, consisted mostly of leaders with Greek culture and sensibilities. Despite this, Cleopatra stood out for being one of the first members of the Ptolemaic dynasty to fluently speak the Egyptian language, an exceptional trait among her Greek predecessors. 2. Early Peace Treaty. For over 2 centuries, the Egyptians and the Hittite Empire engaged in fierce battles over control of lands in modern-day Syria. The infamous Battle of Kadesh in 1274 BC was among the bloody conflicts that ensued. However, as the era of Pharaoh Ramses II arrived, neither side could claim a decisive victory. Facing threats from other adversaries, Ramses II and Hittite king Hattusili III engaged in negotiations in 1259 BC. The result was a groundbreaking peace treaty that put an end to the conflict and established a mutual defense pact in case of invasion by a third party. This historic Egyptian-Hittite treaty is now renowned as one of the earliest recorded peace accords and holds a significant place in history. A copy of this momentous agreement is even displayed above the entrance of the United Nations Security Council chamber in New York. 3. Love for board games. After a long day's labor along the banks of the Nile River, the ancient Egyptians sought relaxation through board games. Among the various games played, Mayhen and Dogs and Jackals were common, but it was the game of chance called Senet that captured the hearts of many. Dating back to around 3500 BC, Senet was a beloved pastime played on a longboard adorned with 30 squares. Each player had their own set of pieces, which were moved across the board based on rolls of dice or throwing sticks. Although historians continue to discuss its precise rules, there is no denying the widespread appeal of Senet during that time. The game's popularity extended to royalty, with paintings depicting Queen Nefertari. The game's popularity extended to royalty, with paintings depicting Queen Nefertari herself enjoying a game of Senet. Even pharaohs such as Tutankhamun were laid to rest with their game boards, a testament to the game's significance in their lives. 4. Women's rights and freedom. While they may have been publicly and socially viewed as inferior to men, Egyptian women enjoyed a great deal of legal and financial independence. They could buy and sell property, serve on juries, make wills, and even enter into legal contracts. Egyptian women did not typically work outside the home, but those who did usually received equal pay for doing the same jobs as men. Unlike the women of ancient Greece, who were effectively owned by their husbands, Egyptian women also had the right to divorce and remarry. Egyptian couples were even known to negotiate an ancient prenuptial agreement. These contracts listed all the property and wealth the woman had brought into the marriage and guaranteed that she would be compensated for it in the event of a divorce. 5. Historic labor strike. Even though they regarded the pharaoh as a kind of living god, Egyptian workers were not afraid to protest for better working conditions. The most famous example came in the 12th century BC during the reign of the New Kingdom pharaoh, Ramses III. When laborers engaged in building the royal necropolis at Deir el-Medina did not receive their usual payment of grain, they organized one of the first recorded strikes in history. The protest took the form of a sit-in. The workers simply entered nearby mortuary temples and refused to leave until their grievances were heard. The gamble worked, and the laborers were eventually given their overdue rations. 6. Pharaohs' unseen struggles. Contrary to the common depiction of pharaohs as trim and statuesque, the reality was quite different. Egyptian art may have portrayed them as such, but their diet told a different story. With a diet primarily consisting of beer, wine, bread, and honey, which were high in sugar, studies suggest that it took a toll on their waistlines. Examinations of mummies have revealed the truth about many Egyptian rulers, showing that they were often unhealthy, overweight, and even afflicted with diabetes. One prominent example is Queen Hatshepsut, a legendary figure from the 15th century BC. Despite her sarcophagus showing her as slender and athletic, historians believe she was actually obese and balding. This insight into her physical condition sheds light on the real challenges they faced amidst their rules. 7. Pyramid builders were not slaves. The construction of the pyramids was undoubtedly challenging, evident from the skeletons of workers showing signs of arthritis and other ailments. However, it's crucial to dispel the myth that these majestic structures were built solely by slaves. Evidence suggests that massive tombs were erected by paid laborers, a mix of skilled artisans and temporary workers, many of whom took immense pride in their craft. Graffiti found near the monuments sheds light on the camaraderie among these workers, with humorous names like Drunkards of Menkora or the Friends of Khufu assigned to their crews. The notion of slave-driven construction was popularized by the Greek historian Herodotus in the 5th century BC, but most historians now reject it as fiction. While the ancient Egyptians did keep slaves, it appears they were primarily employed as field hands and domestic servants, not as the primary workforce responsible for building the iconic pyramids. 8. Mysterious demise of King Tut. The life of the boy pharaoh Tutankhamun remains shrouded in mystery, yet some historians offer insight to his possible cause of death. Examination of his mummified remains reveals a curious absence of his heart and chest wall during embalming, deviating from traditional Egyptian burial practices. This suggests that he may have suffered a severe injury before his demise. Several Egyptologists posit that a likely cause for this wound could have been a hippopotamus bite. Evidence indicates that ancient Egyptians hunted these beasts for sport, and statues discovered in King Tut's tomb depict him in the act of throwing a harpoon. If the young pharaoh indeed enjoyed pursuing dangerous games, his death might have been a tragic consequence of a hunting misadventure. 9. Ancient pets. Ancient Egyptians revered animals as gods' incarnations and were among the first to have household pets. Cats, associated with the goddess Bastet, held a special place along with hawks, ibises, dogs, lions, and baboons. Some animals were mummified and buried with their owners, while others were trained as helper animals, aiding Egyptian police officers during patrols. 10. Magic makeup. Vanity is as old as civilization, and the ancient Egyptians were no exception. Both men and women were known to wear copious amounts of makeup, which they believed gave them the protection of the gods Horus and Ra. These cosmetics were made by grinding ores like malachite and galena into a substance called kohl. It was then liberally applied around the eyes with utensils made out of wood, bone, and ivory. Women would also stain their cheeks with red paint and use henna to color their hands and fingernails, and both sexes wore perfumes made from oil, myrrh, and cinnamon. The Egyptians believed their makeup had magical healing powers, and they weren't entirely wrong. Research has shown that the lead-based cosmetics worn along the Nile actually helped stave off eye infections.